You are now tuning in to Discover Your Potential with radio talk show host Dan Gilman, Cindy Gilman's son. So listen, participate, be inspired, know that you can discover your potential. Here he is, Dan Gilman.
Welcome to Discover Your Potential. I'm your host, Dan Gilman. It is my great pleasure to introduce you and introduce our guest today, Serena Brown Travis. Serena is a motivational speaker, author of children's books, and advocate for breaking generational patterns. And her work is all about people achieving their full potential, whether it's through personal development, positive thinking, or breaking negative generational cycles. Her children's book inspire young readers to think positively, believe in themselves, and never give up their dreams. Her advocacy for breaking generational curses has helped countless individuals and families overcome negative patterns and beliefs that may have been holding them back. It is my honor and privilege to have her on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. And, to
Thank
be
you.
honest, one of the things that most people are thrilled to know, and they say, well, where did all this come from? My father happens to be a motivational speaker named Les Brown. Maybe you've heard of him, maybe you haven't. If you haven't heard of him, he's the author of the quote, "Shoot for the moon, even if you miss, you land them on the stars." So our whole life, my whole life has been around motivation, positivity, uplifting other people. Now, because it's always been embedded in me, I actually did not realize it's a real challenge to try to help people see beyond their circumstances and to live their dreams and, so on and so forth. So nonetheless, that's how I got started. My father also has a quote that says, live full and die empty. One of the things that we do, and it's a mistake that we make, is we always ask a child, what do you want to be when you grow up? Suggesting that there's just one thing to become. And so therefore, I decided, you know what? We have different passions and different things that happen to us at different stages of our lives. And so I don't want to be on my deathbed wondering, what if I started my restaurant? What if I decided to write a book? I want to put everything out there, every God-given talent that I have, put it out there and just see what happens. Even if folks think you're crazy, you let them know that a broken clock is correct at least twice a day.
Absolutely.
So that's how I got started. And that's what I believe, that we should live full, die empty. And if it's given to you, if a gift is given to you, it is your responsibility. You must bring it to life in order to fulfill the life that God has given you.
I wanted to highlight, you've also written several children's books, including the Perfect Penny Positive series. Can you tell us more about what inspired you to write these books and what messages you hope to convey to young readers through them?
Certainly. So again, as mentioned, we have worked with a lot of adults in terms of motivation. And something hit me as I was reading books with my children. I have two teenagers now, 18 and 15. But something hit me as I was reading with them, is I did not see books that had situational challenges for kids. Now, of course, oftentimes we think, oh, kids are supposed to be happy. And we think of swing sets and rainbows and butterflies. And unfortunately, we are living in a time that our children have gone through some incredible circumstances that are not necessarily positive. We don't know what happens once our neighbor closes their door. We don't know what happens when children leave from the school bus, the schoolyard, or when they walk home. And so I was finding children that had major, major, major problems. And so if we need help as adults, then that says we also need help as children. And so that is how the book series started. It's A Perfect Penny is a young lady who was given up at birth. That's, of course, the story of my father, who was also adopted with his twin brother, my uncle. And that's also the story of a lot of young people that we're around. In addition to that, the Perfect Penny, the character Perfect Penny, ideally would struggle with acceptance, would ideally struggle with self-esteem, ideally would struggle with not knowing what's going on around her. And so again, that is unfortunately a story of a lot of our young people today. We make assumptions that mom and dad are home, grandma's on the opposite side of town, and everything is just wonderful. And that is not the case. In some instances, Children don't know mom and dad. They're being raised by extended family members, maybe even grandma, grandpa. Maybe they don't know grandma, grandpa. I mean, there are so many circumstances. So my goal, I said all that to say, my goal was to create a book series that would address, in the most gentle way, would address the feeling of abandonment, the feeling of being lonely, the feeling of not knowing whether or not you're enough, and to use words, to use positive adjectives such as perfect penny, to help people, to help the young people be creative about who they are. So your name is Dan Dynamite, Dan. I mean, whatever, whatever it is to help
Yeah.
individuals kids move past what they see to at least imagine a future for themselves. And that is why the book series was created. The
Yeah.
one that I especially love is called In Case I Forget to Tell You. As parents, we are incredibly busy. And there was a time that I dropped off my one daughter at dance class. I had another daughter in the back seat that I was taking a track practice. And you know how we do. We're zooming all over the place, going over homework in the car, making sure they have their sight words. And it dawned on me, did I tell you I love you? Did I tell you how special you are to me? Did I tell you how pretty, how handsome? And so it just made me
Yeah.
think, in case I forget to tell you. And so, in case I forget to tell you is a book of just positive words, just letting you know, in case I forget to tell you, I love the way you make me feel. I love your
Yeah.
hugs. I love your smile, all of those things. And so I think that is very important that we not just continue to empower our adults, but that our children are equally empowered, that they know that they're loved, they're special, they're unique. And then
Yes.
hopefully by the time that they get to adulthood, they are well on their way to success.
Yeah, no, I love that. Especially now, there's like, and I don't mean to be negative right now,
Yeah.
but unfortunately, every day when I turn on the news, there's another shooting.
Yeah.
And I've never seen anything like this. It's like, it's an extraordinary time, not extraordinary in a good way, but it's just, it's unbelievable, actually.
Yeah,
And
and the truth is you're not being negative when we are articulating the truth,
sure,
the reality around us. And so what is happening is people have lost hope. We could go down a significant rabbit hole to try to
sure,
diagnose, what's going on. But I do think that we always have to make a point to look at the situations that keep on happening. So we could argue gun control. We could argue, I mean, there's so many other things to argue,
yeah,
but why don't we take a look at how us as individuals, how we accept certain people, how
yes,
maybe churches and schools and what have you, what can we do as a community to make
yeah,
everyone feel welcome, make everyone feel included, make sure that folks are not ignored. And it doesn't mean trying to change personalities. There are some people who are, if they say I'm an introvert, there are still ways to work with children who are introverts, to work with
absolutely.
adults who are introverts. So, I mean, oh my goodness, so you're not being negative. In fact,
Yeah,
it is worth a conversation at some point to say what's happening and why is it
yes,
happening and what can people like you and I do. And again, you are doing something that's incredible. You are attempting to at least address the problem in your own way, in the most unique network, and you're even growing. So hate to say this, but God is making a way for you, and we are so excited
yeah,
how your territory is being expanded. But I think that the reality is we're living in tough times. We're living in a world that people have lost hope and they've lost coping mechanisms. So
yeah.
yeah,
Not
why
only
not?
just lost hope, but kids live in fear now. It's like,
Absolutely. Yeah, and
do I
that's not
do
fun. That's not fun.
no,
And
it's
when
not.
we were thankfully when I was a kid, hopefully the same with you, we didn't have a care in the world. I mean, the
No.
the biggest care in the
I
world.
never had a fear about going to school,
Yeah, no,
or
yeah,
living in just that time, it's a different time period. Plus, I had Sesame Street.
I love
We all
Sesame.
had Sesame Street,
Yes.
and of course, my favorite was Mister Rogers, and we
Mhm.
lived in it was a totally different era
Well,
of
kindness, it was
positive
yes,
and kind.
yeah,
Those messages were coming at kids. Now they're on YouTube, and they're, and also even reading has been lessened,
yeah.
which is really unfortunate.
Right. One of the things I remembered, I appreciate even the remembering Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers. I couldn't wait for him to come on. But lessons were taught in all of our interaction. So even with Bert and Ernie or the Cookie Monster. The Cookie Monster,
Absolutely.
he was teaching us, how to count. I mean, it was just we had so many lessons, and
Yeah.
our parents, our surroundings, um, they were intentional about guarding. And I mean, it's even in a good book. Guard
Yes.
your heart, guard your eyes. Make sure that you're protecting your ears. One of the things that my father says, and he's right: garbage in and garbage stays. Most people say garbage in, garbage out. No, no, no. Garbage
No.
in, garbage stays, and it stinks. And it
Yeah.
shows up in how people are living. It shows up in how our children are living. So, if you only hear negative things, if you only see negative things, then what in the world? How in the
Yeah.
world do you think a child, turns into an adult ready to hit the world? It's impossible. I won't say it's not possible, but it is very difficult. There are some
Right.
very difficult odds to overcome. So
Yeah.
yeah,
But
we've got our work to do.
yes, we do. Yeah. But you're just profoundly touching kids' lives with the work that you're doing. And I truly appreciate it. And I'm sure many of our listeners would. And also I wanted to mention too, I wanted to do a giveaway of like at
Mm,
least 5 books of your children's book. So if people write in to me at, I'm going to use my mother's old email address,
okay.
but that way I can keep track of things. But Cindy at cindygilman.com. And I would love to gift people, a few, at least it's a small gift from me, a small just token of not only my appreciation for your work, but people should go out and read, you know, bring these books to their children, because there's one other book that I also wanted to talk about too. Well, you've got many, but you've also written a book called Tied to Greatness.
Mhm.
And I would love for you to tell us more about, I mean, I love the illustrations, and also the written word, but can you tell us more about the book and how it differs from your other children's books?
Absolutely. Well, listen, you've done your homework on me. So, Tied to Greatness is a book specifically. It's anyone can read it, of course, but specifically for young men. And here's what happened. At one point in my life, as in my career, I was working as a substitute teacher, and I loved it. I absolutely love being a substitute teacher. You can come when you want to, you can leave when you want to, but more importantly, I had an opportunity to work with young people. On this particular day, this kid ran into my room and said, "Hey, Miss Travis, can you please help me tie my tie?" Ideally, I would have said, "I don't know how to tie a tie." But
Mm,
this particular weekend, I had learned how to tie a tie from my older brother Calvin as we were on the road to assist our father who had to speak. And I said, "Hey, let me tie your tie." So he showed me
mm,
over, under, so on and so forth. But before I tied the tie, as you may know, substitute teachers or teachers in general, we are not supposed to touch the children. We're supposed to make
mm,
sure, we're arm's length apart, all of that just for safety. And of course we get it in the times that we live in right now. So I asked another young man, I said, "Hey, come here, sir. Can you help him tie his tie?" He pulled off his tie. It was a clip on. He said, "I don't know how to tie a tie." So I'm thinking, "Oh my Lord, I've got to help you tie your tie." So he turns back around. He looks at me like, "I need your help," this is the
mm,
cover of the book, a little boy like this. At any rate, I helped him tie his tie and he was fine. He was watching me do it. I'm telling him over, under, but it hit me as a
mm.
woman. I did not mind doing it, but as a woman, how sad it was for me for this young man to learn how to tie a tie, not from a family member, not from an uncle, not from a male clergy member, any of those things, but from a
Mm,
female substitute teacher. With that being said, that is how the book title developed. Of course, I wanted to. My father always says you have greatness in you, and of
yeah.
course, because of his career, he believes that suit and tie and looking nice as you go out, that is the ticket. Now we know that casual dress has become
Mm,
acceptable, especially with COVID, so on and so forth. But with that being said, I wanted to create and develop a book that taught young men that there was more to life than basketball, more than football, more than baseball, but you can be tied to greatness in a variety of ways, with dentistry, with being an
mm,
architecture, with mowing the lawn. I mean, so there's so much more out there than just playing. And so that is the premise of the book. That's how the title developed. And it's one, in fact, it's one of my family's favorites because we know how our father is on the road. He makes all of us travel with a tie just in case he spills something on it, or he forgets his own tie. He makes sure that we always have a backup, and he'll say, this tie, I mean, he taught us to even make sure we dress up in the airport just to, you never know who you'll meet. You never know who you attract, so on and so forth. So that is how the book title came about. It is one of our family favorites, and I'm so grateful for your generosity, for you to care enough about what we've done here, what I've done on this side, to gift it to your audience. What an incredible gesture of generosity, and I appreciate you helping me, helping this movement of positivity and exploration, positive exploration for kids, because we know all a child has to do is open up their phone, their iPad, and YouTube is right there. And no one is necessarily going out the way to type in positive things for kids. It's whatever pops up. It's whatever algorithm is already on the child's phone. So thank you so much. And I mean, your listeners are truly, truly fortunate to have someone like you who's just kind at heart and serious about the mission and the work and our responsibility of making sure that we are spreading our message of love, positivity, kindness, empowerment, helping to leave our community and the world better than what we found it. So thank you so much for everything that you're doing.
Oh yeah, no, thank you. I hope you don't mind if we just switch gears, because I would really love to talk about your advocacy to break generational curses. I don't know if that's something that you're okay.
No, I'm fine. I should have brought that book down. I love it.
Because I just feel like that kind of segues into that. But I think it's also important to talk about, breaking and shifting. And I'd love to learn more about, what well, I'm sure a lot of our listeners would love to learn more about what a generational curse is and how you're helping individuals and families break free from them.
Right. Well, listen, this is a heavier topic, and so I'll walk.
Sorry.
Yeah. Oh no, we're fine. I will walk through it, and maybe, as you mentioned, hopefully I can come back and we can just dive in.
I would love that.
Yeah, that we can dive into that work.
Actually, I'd love to have you touch upon many different things.
Absolutely.
I know you're doing a lot of work in many different areas.
Yes. So yes, I have a book titled Generational Curses and Breaking the Cycle, and how to reset your life and find your greatness. Now, in terms of a generational curse, it is a biblical term. And so my family and I, we went back and forth because they said, hey, listen, no one likes to think of themselves as being cursed. And I'm like, I get it. But if you look at just biblical times, it is absolutely mentioned in the Bible. Whether or not, that's your walk of faith or what have you, we can still learn a lot from various books of faith. With that being said, I was taking a look at, I'll just transparently say, my father. And my father, one of his stories is, and this is the truth, he was adopted at birth. He and his twin brother, my uncle, were given up, and they were adopted by who we call our grandmother, Mamie Brown. So you'll hear him say, this has been Mamie's baby boy. Now, as much as he's done in his adult life and his career, and he's touched so many lives, trust you me, being adopted impacted his life greatly. And so we have seen the results, both good and bad, of what has happened, what being adopted means, what it feels like to be abandoned at birth, and how that has trickled down to my father's parenting. So maybe a couple years ago, and I'm trying to think, but this isn't super duper important, but a couple years ago, we all took that 23andMe test where, we had to send in a sample of our saliva, and lo and behold, we found my father's birth family. So after all the cheers, the excitement, after we were all trying to figure out who looks like who and who has whose eyes, I sat and I said, so listen, where did this come from? Where did my dad's speaking ability come from? Where, we have good characteristics, and we also have some other characteristics. One would be, we all have this sense of abandonment. Where did that, what happened? And so we had to look at the good and the bad. We had to start unpacking, as basically letting an onion just fall apart. And so I took a look at all of that work. I took a look at how did my biological grandmother, bless her heart, she must have been afraid. Obviously, there were some other issues going on that she had to give up these babies, or she wanted to, and she never looked back. So it is tough work, but nonetheless, we cried, it got contentious at times, but nonetheless, I wanted to figure out where the generational curses came from. And if we look at where generational curses come from, or cycles, because I know a lot of people don't like to think that they're cursed, if we can look at where our generational cycles come from, we can also look at where our generational blessings come from. Come to find out, our biological grandmother and great grandmother, they were educators. My dad's biological grandmother has a museum after her. My father's biological mother was an advocate for voting rights and so on and so forth. So no wonder my father would then be an advocate in his early career for voting rights and other community-minded endeavors. And then, of course, he shifted his career into motivational speaking, positive thinking. So his gift did not just fall out the clear blue sky. It came from somewhere. It came from his family. So if his gift came from his family, of course, on the flip side of that, we've had some other issues we've had to work out. And so that is the premise of the book, to understand, Dan, what has happened? What has happened to you? Why are you the way that you are? There are certain things you have that I'm sure you appreciate from both of your parents. And then there may be some other items that you have, maybe temper, maybe drinking. I don't know. I'm just putting that out there. But looking at the cycles that continue to plague us. And when you look at it, and if you look at it with a fine-tooth comb, a lot of times, because we don't like to be wrong, we don't like to say, you know what, I messed up, or hey, I could have done this differently. So because we don't like to be wrong, we use very delicate words. We'll say, oh, well, Uncle Fred had a drinking problem. No, Uncle Fred was an addict. And so if we're not careful to name things as they should be, we have, again, a generation of young people, a generation of our nieces and nephews who have no idea what they're struggling with. How come they're not motivated? How come they feel depressed? How come they don't have the drive to do anything? And then if we take a look at perhaps mom, dad, aunts, uncles, and we can say, oh, you know what? You're dealing with this because it was never addressed with your aunt, with your uncle, with your grandparents. And so it is tough work, but we decided we were going to do it and dive into it. I now have another generation under me that my nieces have called me and said, Auntie, we got to talk. And, you done wrote this book. Well, we're coming your way so we can talk. Because one of the things that our generation has gotten away from is strong communication. If you remember back in the day, we would go visit our grandparents or aunts and uncles or cousins' homes. There may or may not have been a TV. There may or may not have been a TV that was on. And so therefore, we lost that art of communication, where I remember we would just sit in a room and the old people would talk. And then every now and again, us young folks had to go into another room to play. So when we stop talking as families, intimately talking, really being honest with one another, then we've lost a lot in terms of trying to figure out if something's wrong. I will tell you, our younger people are the ones who are now saying, time out, something's not right. I feel a pull, I feel a shift. I've got to figure out what's going on to me, and someone's got to open up their mouth and talk. And so I think our younger people, I'm the youngest of my family, but the ones who are coming under me, they're like, oh, Auntie, this is good. That whole concept that we grew up with of, keep family business, and families don't share their secrets, that's going out the door. So I will tell you now, buckle up, buckle up. We've got to start being honest with our families and with our children, because there's no way, if we're serious about what we do in terms of motivation, encouragement, and entrepreneurship and all of that, there's no way that I can try to continue to move forward without telling my children, oh, hey, by the way, be careful, be mindful. You may struggle with depression. You may struggle with this. Well, why would I struggle with it? Well, if I'm honest, I had to deal with it. So we have to start being honest with ourselves so that we can then not just empower, but also educate and be honest with the generation under us to help them avoid many of the pitfalls that we have.
Interesting, because even with my mother, she's helped a lot of people and a lot of lives, but she always struggled. And I was always trying to figure out, how can I break this pattern? Because I want to
Yeah.
break it.
And
It's time to break it.
it's time to break it, and it's tough to break. And the thing is, people will not be excited to talk about it. So you may say, hey, you know what, mom, dad, uncle, auntie, let's sit and talk. Oh, nothing's wrong with us. That's you're the problem. Yeah. So
Yeah.
prepare yourself.
Yes.
Prepare yourself just in case.
Yes.
However, I have found that after gentle tugging, after gentle pulling, after saying, hey, listen, this is impacting us and we need to know.
Yeah.
So the truth of the matter is, yeah, we had to have a hard conversation with my father. I know I did. I said, hey, look, Dad, you've done a lot. You've changed many lives, and that is wonderful. But if you have been abandoned, if you have abandonment issues, which understandably, as you've been adopted, you unfortunately, you passed them down to us. And so we've got to be real honest about what has happened in our lives, in your life, in our life, how we have, interpreted what, your career. It's hard sharing a parent with the world.
It is.
It's hard.
It is.
It's hard when folks come up to you and it's like, they see my dad and they go, oh, hi, Dad. Hi, uncle. And it's like, no, he's not your dad. He's my dad. But
Your
it's
dad.
tough.
Yes.
Yeah, people have that connection. And who am I to, be a jealous kid? It's just tough when you realize the sacrifices you've made all of your life. And
Absolutely.
So there's no book about it. There's no tell-all
Sure.
story. We've been a very fortunate family. But even in our world of motivation, we had to have those difficult conversations to say, now listen, this is what your biological mother did. This is what has happened to you. And this is what has happened to us. So let's stop the cycle.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting you said that because although my mother was now she passed, can't believe April 1st will be her second year of her passing.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, it's incredible because she actually ran the show for 30 plus years. But it's interesting that when I was in Rhode Island, she was a celebrity in Rhode Island anyway. It was a local celebrity. So wherever we went, I got the same kind of thing. She would get people to come up to her, and I always got not jealous so much, well, maybe a little bit, and said, "Hey, this is my mom. Do I share you?" It's interesting.
Most people don't realize, and even local, sometimes local could maybe even be a little worse than national, because that meant you couldn't halfway go outside without
anywhere we went. They would approach my mom. Like we were even eating at a bagel shop, and they would come up to my mom and ask her questions.
And you feel like you're in a fishbowl. I mean, we have been at restaurants where it's like, okay, are folks still looking? Are they okay? Just smile, eat through this spot. So it gets tough. And so my condolences to you, because I know that it's still tough on even the anniversary of a passing, that it can be tough, because I can imagine your mother helping you with the controls and doing what she can behind the scenes to make sure that this show is successful. So I will be praying for you as you go through.
Thank you.
I think it's in a couple of weeks that we will come upon April 1st. So with that being said, it's really just important work. And again, look at your life. So I'm sure at some point you have some issues that you could have tried to resolve. But on the flip side, you have the same blessing of popularity, blessing of charisma, blessing of getting your voice out to the world. So now you're not just local, you're national, international, as your show continues to grow. So you have still been blessed by the cycle as well,
Yes.
And so taking a look at, my one daughter, she had an opportunity to take a communications class, and then there was a pottery class. Well, my child, the granddaughter of Les Brown, says, "Oh, I think I just prefer pottery," because she didn't want to change her lunch break. And I'm like, pottery? Let me see. Let's see how this looks. Okay. She tried to put something together. Of course, I'm like, honey, this is not it. I give her a script of communication. She nails it. And I said, guess what
Mhm.
you're going to do, sweetheart? You're going to take, you're going to take the communication class. We can't even draw. Okay. I'll do good if I do a successful happy face. So pottery and artistry is not what we do well. You give us a script, we got you. But looking at, so the tough part again, in terms of the book, looking at the curses, looking at the blessings, and I've had a lot of people say, hey, well, my parents have deceased, or the folks who, help me, they're no longer here, or they're not open to this process. And so
Yeah.
then the work gets a little harder, but it's not impossible. Then you have the responsibility of saying, you know what? I wonder what my grandmother went through. So instead of
Yes.
me attacking our biological grandmother who traveled to another state to give birth to these twins and then travel back home. Her husband was away in the army, so she got pregnant by someone else. So we could argue, hey, this is a scandalous story.
Mm.
Looking at the story for what it is, no judgment, and then me thinking to myself, okay, grandma, you were scared. You and whoever you had this little entanglement with, you all were wrong. It happened. You got pregnant. So
Mm.
taking that time to then write a letter to say, Grandma, no judgment. I can only imagine how afraid you were. You could have tried to abort the children. You could have tried to do anything else. But in your own way, you did what you thought was best. And that was skip town, deliver these babies, and come back. So thank you for not giving up. Thank you for being resilient, so on and so forth. So even trying to find the positives in the negative situations that have happened in life. If you have someone who is a drinker, instead of criticizing their drinking habits, to say, well, what has happened in your life that you have
Mm.
to bury yourself with alcohol and numb yourself with anything for that matter. So nonetheless, it is fascinating work. It gets uncomfortable. It gets fun, and it's also equally liberating. So to figure out what the cycles are, so that once we see the negative ones, we stop them in their track. Once we see the positive ones, we continue to develop those for the greater good of our families and, of course, our communities, careers, and our impact.
Oh, that's incredible. Also, Serena, I know I'd love to delve into this further, but do you have any upcoming projects or books or have anything in the works currently? I'd love
Yeah,
to.
so I appreciate that. So currently, I am a student. I am a seminary student that's trying really hard to finish my thesis and graduate. So right now, I've put all book projects on hold. However, if I get this thesis done on time, and I need everybody to send me positive thoughts and good energy
Sending
and
you
prayer.
energy.
Yes, 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 yes. So once I get that done, then I will start a book tour, late summer, early fall, to really start to push these books out in person, book readings and so on and so forth. So yes, I may actually be knocking on your door to say, hey, Brother Dan, can you
Anytime.
bring me back?
Anytime,
Bring
especially
me back.
once we're on a larger network too.
Yeah,
Anytime.
yeah, and so also with that being said, my brothers and sisters and I, we are also the First Family Motivation. So you will see more of us in terms of speaking with our Father collectively, doing podcasts together, so on and so forth. So yeah, I guess just stay tuned. And again, if I get the thesis done, then I can go outside and play. If not, then I'll just be be here trying to knock it out and try to graduate the following year. But that's what we have going on. We're just not stopping. We're going to continue to do what we do, the work that we do. My father loves it, and somehow or another, the cycle has continued. We also love it too, to help people see the greater good within themselves that they would not have otherwise seen based off of where their circumstances are.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything final that you want to like, is there any way that people could reach you or contact you or I don't know. I know you're working right now on this, but eventually I'm assuming you'll be, connecting with people
Yeah,
and they'll be working with you.
yeah,
Um,
eventually, as we would say, I can come outside and play.
yeah,
So yeah,
exactly.
so feel free. My website is serenabrowntravis.com. I'm also on Facebook, Serena Brown Travis, as well as I think it's Instagram under the Pulpit Chick. Is it Pulpit? Yeah, Pulpit Chick. So nonetheless, I am
It's right
really
down there, I
easy.
think.
Yes, down there.
Over that way.
Yeah, one of the two. One of the two. But
I
and
always forget what direction camera is.
right, I'm really easy to find. And again, Dan, I appreciate what you are doing, what you have done in the past, and just how you are expanding your territory. I know that we'll be able to find you in plenty of other major sources and networks here shortly. So I don't want to spill the beans, but nonetheless, that is a good thing, that when you start off right where you are and then you continue to expand, that means that God is pleased with your gift. And so you are indeed making an impact, and your impact will drive income. And so I will be probably one of your biggest fans, one of your biggest cheerleaders. I know that your mother is like still cheering even up above. And so I'm so grateful for what you're doing and continue to do, and all the positive people that you have around you. So this has been super fun.
Well, it's an absolute pleasure and honor to speak with you today. And thank you for sharing your insight and your experience, with our audience. I truly appreciate it. I look forward to having you on when you're doing the book tour.
Indeed, indeed. Yes, I
And
will
push
be
more
back.
books out
Absolutely.
on a bigger scale. So thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Thank you. And again, looking forward, and thank you to your listening audience for being a beacon of light, to make sure that you take whatever you learn here on this show and other shows that Dan has, and make sure that you apply it to your life, your community, and leave the world better than when we found it. That is our goal.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Dave Kane. I've been a friend of Cindy Gilman's for years. When she retired from her own radio talk show, I had her on as a guest on my show lots of times. I would be amazed as I listened to her telling people things she couldn't possibly know, but somehow she did. And in 2003, our son Nicholas passed in the station nightclub fire. The morning after the fire, Nikki's spirit went to Cindy and asked her if she would call his father. She did, and for our family, it was a wonderful, lifelong gift. Thank you, Cindy, for all you've done, not only for us, but for all the family members you've touched. God bless you. We love you, Cindy.
Hi, everyone. This is Lisa Purcell. I think of Cindy all the time. I really do. I think of her every time I hear a bird chirp, or just last week when I was on my way to one of my son's baseball games, I drove past 5 deer. And Cindy would always tell me what certain animals meant, symbolism behind it, spiritually. And I'd always text her and she'd give me the answer instantly. And it was just this fun sort of, not game, but I don't know. Every time I'd see something, I'd constantly bother her and ask her, what does this mean? And she convinced me to buy the book Animals Speak. The author's last name is Andrews. I can't remember the first name. And I did, I ordered it. But, so every time I hear a bird chirp, or there's a gust of wind, she told me that's a spirit as well. Or I see some sort of animal, I'm like, what would Cindy say? So that's why I really mean it. I think of her all the time. She's with me. I met her in 2017 after my grandmother passed away, and she was spot on, accurate about everything. We developed an amazing relationship, friendship. I would visit her at her apartment all the time. I would listen to her tapes of her singing back from her New York days. She would share with me photographs, gorgeous. She was stunning, gorgeous photographs from her theater days in New York. In fact, she'd share funny stories about the theater and about singing and about boyfriends back then. One who lived in my hometown across the George Washington Bridge, Fort Lee, New Jersey. So we just had a connection in so many ways. My kids loved her. They helped her. They shoveled snow. They got the snow off her car. She came to their graduation party. I introduced everyone to her as my Jewish mother because that's the name she gave herself. I'm Italian, born in Italy, in fact, and we just would talk about all the similarities in our cultures. And so she one day decided, well, I'll just be your Jewish mother. And so I loved it. From that moment on, I called her my Jewish mother. Sorry, Dan, I shared her with you for the last couple of years. Cindy was amazing. She helped me out with freelance jobs. It's because of her that I interviewed certain people in my past life for broadcasting gigs. And I'm just thankful that Cindy Gilman was part of my life. I am really grateful because she was a class act, and she even put me on her show. It was a riot. I did that from a baseball game. The background noise was awful. She wanted to kill me. I think Dan wanted to kill me, but you know what? A few clips here and there were salvageable, and I have them on my phone. I listen to them all the time just to hear her voice. And Cindy, I miss you. I love you. Thank you for everything you've taught me. And I'm blessed to have you part of my story, part of my journey. I'm blessed to have had you as a friend in my life and as a second mother. Love you, Cindy. You're a rock star, always.
Hello, Dan Gilman. Cindy Gilman, because I know you're not only watching, you're listening, and you are right by Danny's side all the time. I know it for sure. And if you were with us, you'd say the same. And I'm Ron Hayden. They say I'm the man of a few hundred voices, not a few thousand voices, but I knew Cindy early on in radio, and it was people like her who really believed in me and inspired me to get into the voiceover business, to just continue to do and use my gift, not go off and just work a 9-to-5, just go after it and do it, So, whether it's, Arnold, getting pumped up and just inspiring, there's so much that I'm trying to do in my retirement here, and to just inspire so many people. And we're trying to keep it all in the family with Archie and Edith, inviting people into our living room and having some fun and some laughs. Edith, nothing but laughs with you. You are a riot there, Edith.
Oh, come on, you guys. How about throwing some crumbs down on the floor for the mouse that's running around underneath the furniture? Okay.
So there's the deeper voice of James L. Jones, and then there's the
higher voice.
And then in between there are many other voices of wisdom. So many. Few hundred. But it's all about saying thank you today and paying tribute to the great Cindy Gilman. Right on, Danny. Pick up that ball and run with it, buddy. Much love to all. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Cynthia Stern-Lynch, and I don't even know where to begin to describe the impact that Cindy has had on my life in so many ways. I've known her over 20 years. She became family to me. She was just such an integral part of my life in so many ways. She helped me cope with the death of my father and the death of my son. She helped me with my pets. She helped me just to get through the day sometimes. I cannot begin to tell you how much I miss her. She was so much more than someone I went to as an appointment. She was a lot more than that in so many ways, and I truly miss her.
Hi, I'm Ken. Cindy is my sister. You know how people talk about guardian angels? Well, Cindy was mine while she was here alive with us. From the moment I was born, she took it upon herself to be my protector, my defender. Not an easy job for a 6-year-old, and it wasn't always easy as we got older. But whatever avenue I went down, I always knew she was there for me, supporting me. I don't know if she's part of some divine spirit. I don't have all the answers to those questions, but I do know how much I appreciated the part of my life that she was while she was here with me. She was my daughter's, my firstborn's godmother, and she taught her so much about love and spirituality. I know they loved each other a great deal. And she taught me a lot about what it means to have someone in your life that you can really count on. So, thank you, Cindy. Love you very much.
This is Cindy Gilman, and you're listening to Discover Your Potential. So until next time, do something nice for yourself, but do something nice for someone else.